This is Sky World News with Hannah Tallett.
The top stories on World News this morning. US officials say there's no evidence of direct Russian involvement in the downing of the Malaysian jet, but it's claimed Russia is still supplying the separatists with tanks and rockets. International monitors say a train from eastern Ukraine carried the bodies of 200 of the crash victims. That's 80 fewer than the rebels had said were on board. And missile warnings at Tel Aviv airport as the Israelis react angrily to a decision by American and some European airliners to stop flights to the city. Well, joining me now is the Jerusalem Post correspondent, Yonah. Bob, many thanks for speaking to us on World News. Let's talk about the security threat at Ben Gurion Airport firstly. Is this the first time that airport has been targeted by rockets from Hamas?
No, absolutely not. This has been a major goal from Hamas in any of the conflicts. Certainly in this conflict, they have far more rockets, far more long-range rockets, different options. So you could say that theoretically they would have a better chance of hitting it. But what has happened is because of the Iron Dome, there's now at least 10 Iron Dome batteries around the country. Hamas's advance in rockets has been negated by Israel's advance with missile defense. So there still have been no hits. There has been, what happened yesterday was there was one hit in a backyard in an area near Tel Aviv, and that is what got a lot of the airlines excited to be on the conservative side.
It just goes on and on, though, doesn't it? The rockets to keep coming over from Gaza into Israel. The Iron Dome gets rid of some of them, and yet the bombardment of Gaza keeps on going as well. I mean, how long will this keep up? What is the end game for Israel?
That is the big question. On Sunday, Defense Minister Ya'alon was talking about just a few days to do tunnel removal, right? The other big challenge from Hamas for Israel isn't just the rockets, it's the tunnels that are going under the Gaza border into Israel for Hamas to be able to do surprise attacks on Israeli villages near the border. So that's what people were talking about in the early stages of this ground invasion, which only started 6 days ago, even though the airstrikes and the rockets have been going on for 16 days. But now there's been a change. Now that Israel has invested a lot of its military power, almost 30 people, mostly soldiers, have been killed, Israeli officials aren't talking just about tunnels anymore. They're talking about disarmament in Gaza. And what's impressive is not just the people on the right, like Foreign Minister Lieberman talking about that, but Tzipi Livni, Yair Lapid's party, even the labor opposition leader, Isaac Herzog, are all talking about disarmament. That signals that this is not going to be done in a couple of days, like Ya'alon said on Sunday, but that we could be in this for at least a couple more weeks. And if Israel believes at a certain point that Hamas is not going to stop the rocket fire unless it topples Hamas, that was unthinkable a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a couple of days ago. It's becoming talked about more and more as a serious option. But right now, there's still a preference for if Hamas can be disarmed, that would be the preference.
Yonah, just briefly, the world has looked on with horror, really, at the situation in Gaza and what's happening there. Is Israel starting to feel the weight of international condemnation?
Look, on one hand, yes. Especially the airlines is a big PR coup for Hamas. All of the American, European airlines, most of the airlines aren't flying to Israel at this particular moment. El Al Airlines, the Israeli airline, never stops flying and it won't. That's their biggest coup. There's also pressure. There was the big, what some called massacre. That's not what Israel would call it, but a lot of Palestinian civilians were killed a couple days ago during shelling in the Shajaya neighborhood of Gaza City. And there are mistakes happen in war. There are more civilian deaths. The numbers are up to 600 Palestinians dead. Some say as many as 4,000 injured. There's pressure on that. And there's pressure about the large number of Israeli soldiers, 30 for Israel, that's relatively high, being dead. On the other hand, as I said, domestically in Israel, there's an understanding. This is the third round, right? Meaning there was a war in 2008, 2009 for a few weeks. There was a war in November 2012, and Israelis do not want to go through this every 2 years. And this time, they may be willing to wait longer in order to ensure that there isn't another round soon. The last thing that I need to say about that is who's the broker? It was very clear in past years that Egypt was the broker. Right now, there's a fight about it. Egypt going to broker a ceasefire. Is Qatar going to broker a ceasefire? The United States, the UN? That makes things messy. And finally, in terms of what the ceasefire terms are, Hamas wants a change for the blockade to be taken down, or at least open crossings to be open between Israel and Egypt. And if that doesn't happen right now, they think they need to keep on fighting. And Israel wants not just tunnel destruction, but disarmament of Hamas. It does not look like this is going to be over anytime soon, unfortunately.
Okay, Yonah Bob, we have to leave it there.